Do you have a history paper or other project that you need to do a bunch of research for? Maybe you've sort of put things off till the very last minute, and now you're in a position where you have to find a bunch of high quality sources really fast. I'm Dr. Doug Campbell, and you've come to the right place because in this video, I am going to tell you how to do research quickly and effectively and identify lots of high quality sources in as little time as possible. So let's do it. Okay, so I totally just lied to you there.
Liar!
Promising to teach you how to do research that's really fast and yet identifies lots of high quality sources. That's kind of the same thing as like those online ads that promise to teach you how to get six-pack abs in just 2 weeks.
Oh my.
When we all know that like really the only way to do that would be to start with an 8-pack and like eat pizza for 2 weeks. Otherwise it's impossible. In much the same way, you can do fast research or you can do good research. You can't really do both. They're mutually exclusive. But before you click on to some other video in a disillusioned sulk,
You lose! Good day, sir!
give me just a minute here, because I think that I can give you some tips.
See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
To doing research that is as efficient and effective as possible and that wastes as little time as possible. Because really, research is one of those things that I think a lot of people believe that they do well, when in reality, they do it so poorly that they really don't even understand the difference between doing online searches to find a bunch of random YouTube videos that simply confirm stuff that they already believed in the first place, and doing serious, methodical research that is based on high-quality sources and gathers as much accurate and reliable information as possible. Because if you think about it, like if people really were good at research, there would not be so many folks who believe in weird crap like the Earth is flat, or that the moon landing was faked, or that the Holocaust never happened, or that COVID vaccines implant microchips in your body, or that somehow vote fraud stole the 2020 election from Donald Trump. Like, none of those things are true, and it's very easy to confirm that they are not true. And yet, millions of people believe. That isn't to throw shade on people who believe that stuff necessarily. Research is a learned skill that requires patience and practice. Anybody can master it, but it requires you to put in the time and effort to do so. So that said, let's talk some research. How do you do it? Maybe the place to begin is by giving you a few things that you should avoid, things that definitely do not constitute good research. First of all, and there is a certain irony in saying this in a YouTube video, but do not search in YouTube for a bunch of videos on a subject and assume that you have done good research. You haven't. Likewise, just searching around online for websites. Web searches have their place, but certainly they shouldn't be your only recourse in research, and there's a lot of bad websites out there. Likewise, be aware of your own biases and don't just search out sources that confirm them. Part of the point behind research is to acquire as much information as possible from as wide a variety of points of view. So you should be searching not just for stuff that fits opinions you already hold, but from as many and as diverse an array of perspectives as possible. And above all, as I alluded to in the beginning, don't expect that this is going to be something that you can knock out really quickly. Research is something that does take time, for reasons that we'll go into in just a moment here. Okay, so that's some stuff to avoid. Well, what should you actually do? I'm going to go ahead and recommend that your starting point for finding out about history, or really anything else, should be to read a book. Maybe that sounds a little bit old-fashioned in the 21st century, but sometimes things are tried and true for a reason.
How very traditional.
Well, I like to do some things the old-fashioned way.
Sometimes the old ways are the best.
The temptation in doing research is to find something that gives you kind of a quick and dirty overview of a topic. But if you're doing really serious research of the sort that you'd be expected to do for any history class worth its salt, the point is not to find out the bare minimum of information, but to do a deep dive on a topic and to amass as much information as possible. That's what makes books so handy, is you've got a lengthy, in-depth treatment. Moreover, not just any book, but you should look for a work of history by an established scholar. You should look for something that is published by an academic publishing company. That gives you a number of things. First of all, academic publishers tend not to be for-profit, so they're not simply trying to sell you something that is titillating or entertaining, but they're trying to give you something that is a worthwhile contribution to the scope of human knowledge. Also, academic publishers use a process called peer review, where books submitted for publication have to be vetted by several scholars who are experts in the field that the book deals with. Obviously, no process is perfect, and there are certain things you could critique peer review for, but at the same time, it is very handy in making sure that the book that you are reading is not total nonsense that's just pulled out of somebody's behind. Gatekeeping has kind of a bad name, elites in ivory towers keeping out the masses.
Are you the keymaster?
Yes. I'm a friend of his. He told me to meet him here. I didn't get your name.
I am Zul. I am the gatekeeper.
But it has its place. Like if you have to have open heart surgery, or you're going to fly in an airplane, you don't want your surgeon or your airplane mechanic to be self-taught amateurs without any expertise in the field. Sometimes you want an expert. So get a book written by somebody who knows their stuff. While you're reading the book, don't just read the book for information, but look at their sources. Look at their footnotes, their citations, go through their bibliography. One of the things reading a book like that should enable you to do is identify other sources that you need to look at. While we're being desperately unhip and old-fashioned, I also recommend you try searching at a library. Either a library's online catalog or actually physically going to a large academic library, one associated with a college or university. The bigger the better. The larger the library, the wider array of sources they're going to have. Why would you do that in an era where you can just search for whatever you want online? Well, again, it has to do with some of the gatekeeping process, that libraries are collections of curated materials, that these collections are amassed by librarians to winnow out all of the crap, so that in theory, in a good academic library, everything that you have there has been vetted by experts and is useful and more likely to be reliable than some random thing that you might find online.
Did you call for assistance?
Yes, I did.
Are you having a problem, Master Kenobi?
Yes.
Now, certainly these days you can find a lot of high-quality sources by simply searching a library's catalog over the web, but there is also something to be said for going there. Some of this has to do with how library catalogs work. So searching online through Google or Yahoo or Bing or whatever your web search of choice might be, how those work is they take your search keyword and then an algorithm. Essentially, we're talking about a machine, artificial intelligence here.
The machines have gathered an army, and as I speak, that army is drawing nearer to our home.
We'll attempt to match that with the most relevant website, measured by a number of metrics: location, recentness, backlinks, above all, popularity. And that has its place. I'm not going to tell you that web searches are not useful and don't ever identify good sources. But for libraries, how library catalogs work is every source in that library's collection was categorized by a human being in a nested hierarchy of subject headings, whether we're talking about the Library of Congress subject headings, which are used in American libraries, or if you're searching through an academic database, there are descriptors that are applied. But in every instance, it requires a professional scholar or librarian to assess that source and say, what is this about? And classify it according to those subject headings. Some things machines can do better than human beings, but in this instance, perhaps human librarians have more insight into how human beings search for information than machines.
I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do.
But why those subject headings are important is if you've identified a book in a library that you think is useful to whatever it is you happen to be researching. Say you've done a search in the library's online catalog, you should get a catalog entry that lists its subject heading. Like, you can click on that and find other books that have been classified according to that same subject heading. If one is relevant to you, maybe the others are as well. And one of the reasons why I recommend actually going in person physically to an academic library is once you've identified one book in a library's catalog that may be relevant to your topic of research, you can go into the stacks of that library, find that book, and just look on the shelves. Because everything near that book is also going to be relevant, and you can pick it off the stacks, you can browse through it. Like, you can accomplish more in 15 minutes browsing the stacks at a high-quality college library than you can in many hours of doing Google searches. And the final tip for actual good research is to be patient. It takes time. It requires thought. There is a whole cycle of research that you start by thinking about a topic and what you know about it, what you don't know, what you'd like to know. Then you search for sources. Then you read those sources. Those sources lead you to other sources. You think some more, you search some more, you read some more, you get some more sources. So research is a cyclical process. There is a kind of feedback loop. The more you research a topic, the more you know about it, but the more you also know about what you don't know about it and what you need to know. So that is the kind of thing, like, you can't accomplish that in a half hour or even a day. It requires patience and persistence. In my videos, I always try to recommend some sources. In this instance, if you're serious about doing research, it might be worth checking out, well, again, a book. For instance, you might take a look at Thomas Mann's Oxford Guide to Library Research, or Wayne Booth's The Craft of Research, or Zachary Shcrag's Princeton Guide to Historical Research. All of those are handy overviews about how to go about the process of high-quality research. So I wish you good researching. Do it slowly. Do it thoughtfully. Do it the old-fashioned way. See ya.